Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related, Smokin Tex electric smokers, and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you guys for that nice introduction. And Mr. Weissoon, you are way up north, somewhere up in British Columbia right now, aren't you?
I am, Luke. We're about to kick off a moose hunt up here out of Smithers, kind of a little way out of Smithers, getting ready to fly out up to a remote camp with Love Brothers and Lee up here with Mossberg, who happens to be one of our sponsors as well, too. And up here with the 375 Ruger, of course, I'm using Hornady ammo that's, it's accurate, deadly, dependable. We'll show people later how that worked on the moose. And then my scope, of course, is a Stealth Vision 3-18 by 44, and my binoculars are as well, too. And, of course, they're one of our sponsors, thankfully, as well, too. And of course, I always trying to push DSC because it's the greatest hunting organization or outdoor conservation organization there is in the world, with conservation, education, and hunter advocacy being their primary goals. And, get back home and, get together and we'll do a little bit more hunting over on the Cotton Ranch with, I've got a Taurus rifle and a Taurus handgun that I want to use out there, and, and all those kind of other good things. But I wanted to visit a little bit about VINEYARDMAX as well, too. Right before I left, I grabbed one of their tagging kits. And, Luke, that thing is out of this world good. And, of course, even up here, if I do take my moose, I'm going to have to tag it properly. And I'll have everything I need with me when I've got that little kit with me.
Larry, this information I'm sure will help people. It helped me. I've got one of the kits. It's a tagging kit, folks. VINEYARDMAX.net. That's where you can get them. And we'll just call this a commercial if you want to. I mean, this when I got one of these, I thought, wait a minute, this is going to save a lot of trouble. So paint a little scenario, Larry. So you shoot a buck. Say we're hunting here in Texas. You shoot your buck, 15 minutes before legal shooting time ends. So it's 15 minutes, it's dark. Okay, you found your buck. It's time to tag him. You need to tag him before you move him anywhere. Okay, now this is me. Okay, I'm scratching in my pack. I've got a pen in there for sure, and I've got a flashlight. I've got a hunting knife that if you hold it just right, you can cut out the date on that tag. Otherwise, you'll cut out 2 or 3 dates if in the dark. Now, I've been there and done this. So I thought, okay, so I'm there. I'm going to tag it. Okay, that pen probably wrote maybe last year. It's not going to work. And I have one heck of a time holding the light so I can see to fill out the tag. These tagging kits, folks, have got a pen with a light built in that actually writes. I think it'll write in sub-freezing temperatures, Larry. And it's got the little scissors. It's got a whole bunch of things that are necessary. Got the little scissors to cut that little V out for your dates on your tag. Of course, the light. It's got the little strips for electronic tagging. A lot of people do that now. It's on and on. It's everything you can think you might need to tag your deer. It's got it, hasn't it, Larry?
It really does. It's also got a couple of reusable zip locks, which, you're always looking for things. And what I do is generally back home, that's where I carry my hunting license a lot of times. There's space for that. And it's just everything kind of comes together in one little kit, kind of a zip-up kit. And, my gosh, I'll tell you what, they're just some of the best things I've come across. The first time I saw this thing, you and I were doing a book signing for our books there in not too far from where you live. And that's the first time I'd ever seen those when Paul showed me those. And I go, wait a minute, this is one of the coolest little things I've ever seen. And, I think they're like $20 or something like that. Yeah, on the website, on the VINEYARDMAX.net website,
That's
and to me, it's a great little thing. I just feel like every hunter that's out there that needs to tag animals, and that includes all of us pretty much, they need to have one of these things, and of course they can go get one through the website there, the VINEYARDMAX.net. And I've got to tell you, the one thing I didn't mention, I've also got one of my knives up here that I designed that Vineyard Maxes and is selling to their website. These are knives I designed, the Silver Stag built for us, and I know you and Jeff and a bunch of other people have been using them a little bit. And I'll probably bring back some photos, and also, we're filming this moose hunt, or I'm going to be self-filming this moose hunt for our Sportsman's Life digital TV show thing. So, rather than tell people how things went and how the fishing was, and we'll just be able to show them, and maybe we'll kind of touch about it on some other times here, a little bit later on in the fall. But a lot of things going on right now. Deer seasons are open in Texas. As soon as I get back, you and I need to spend a little time there on the cotton ranch. I talked with David not very long ago, and got a few dates set up to kind of toward the tail end of October of this month, and trying to see if we can't rattle up a buck or two while we're there, and for David and for Edgar, and not that we'll shoot them, we'll just want to look at them in some instances, but it's right when I have to step out, they're liable to get shot. And I got a feeling some of that will end up over at the Kuby's place that you do a lot of business with in terms of having venison taken care of, because my gosh, those guys do a great job.
They do. Larry, let's talk a little bit about your moose hunt. Now, I know you're getting up there. You're about there, or maybe you are there, I think. But how do you expect this to unfold? We ought to be doing some calling for the bulls, right?
Yeah, right now, from what they've told me, the rut's going on pretty strong. We're going to be living for about 10 days, actually, on a lake out in the middle of nowhere, about 180 miles north of where I am right now in Smithers, which is kind of in the western side, kind of northwestern side of British Columbia. The moose this time of year are very vocal, they tell me. And so our game plan is we're staying at a camp on a lake that they have not hunted in the last 5 or 6 years. Their unit is huge enough so they don't have to hunt the same place. So these bulls should have a little bit of age on them. And what happens is for the most part, from their past experiences, those bull moose live up in the mountains. But this time of the year, they're coming down pretty much to the water's edge, because a lot of times that's where the cow moose are, is they're hanging not very far from those lakes, because there's more than adequate food supply there. So for them, and for having to raise their young, and they're weaning those calves now, and so these bulls ought to be coming out of the hills, and we're going to be calling. Pretty much that's the extent of what I'm told our hunt's going to be, is going to ease up in some of these little coves, and it's a huge lake for what they're telling me, and we'll call right there from the water's edge, and hopefully call in a big old bull. And then also having shot moose back up in the mountains and having to pack them out to where we can get to them is going to make a lot of difference as far as I'm concerned, because moose is bigger than a horse when you get right down to it. So imagine trying to pack an animal that size out of the mountains. And in this instance, hopefully it'll be right at water's edge, and we'll get our footage and our photos, and get our moose meat and our moose rack, and load them up in a boat and head back to camp.
I like that theory. I was up in Saskatchewan last year, and we were fishing back up in a cove, a beautiful setting, and there was a big old bull moose. He was out in the water. He'd stick his nose down under and grab a bunch of aquatic plants, and throw his head back up and chew and eat. But the guide that was guiding us on we were fishing, and he says, "I'll tell you what, I think I can get us real close to that moose." So the wind was, he got the boat positioned where the wind was in our favor, and just shut the motor off, and the little breeze there, it blew us, honestly, within 60 yards of that moose, big old bull. I think I've showed you some of the pictures. But I thought if I hunted moose, I'd want to hunt them from the water because, and then I bet that's still a chore for the skinners and all, because you got to, that water, that moose they are long-legged critters anyway. They could be standing in 3-4 foot of water, couldn't they?
Yeah, they could. I've been very fortunate in the moose that I've shot. They did not die in the water when we shot them. But, but I have packed them as far as 3 or 4 miles back to camp. And I can tell you that, a moose is absolutely huge. Of course, their meat is out of this world delicious. I'm going to try to bring back a little bit of it. I don't know that I'll be able to bring back the entire moose meat, just simply because of the overall cost of shipping. But going to try to bring back at least a portion of that backstrap so that you and I can, when we get together there at the Cotton a little bit later this month, we'll see if we can grill some moose steaks.
Boy, that would be a treat, Larry. I wish we had about 8 or 10 hours to visit, because we could cover it with the things that we've got going on, but we don't. So best of luck up there in British Columbia on your moose hunt. Maybe next week, or probably week after next, you'll be back and we'll have time to recount let you tell everybody how it unfolded. How about that?
We'll do that. And again, want to remind folks, too, that they can go to our websites, your catfishradio.org and mine, LarryWeissSoon.net, and order our books. But also, they can watch whatever we do on A Sportsman's Life. So you're right. We'll be right back here with everybody next week.
Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultrimatic Feeders. Go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultrimaticfeeders.com. Folks, I want to tell you about an awesome destination down at Lake Tawakoni. It's Wind Point Park. If you love the outdoors, if you like camping in an area, I bet I saw 60 deer. I was in there recently touring the place, went fishing down there. It's some awesome fishing, camping, long-term RV rentals overnight. There's some beautiful cabins, some bigger cabins and littler ones right there by fishing. You can walk out the door and fish at some of those places. But the place is neat as a pin. It's been around for 10 years. Wind Point Park, if you haven't been down there in the last 10 years, it's all remodeled and just beautiful. So check it out online. I think the website is windpointparktx.com. Of course, you can just Google Wind Point Park, Tawakoni, and pull it up. But I want you to know about it. You're going to be hearing old Luke talk about the fishing down there a lot. I've already done some bank fishing there, so you can catch a lot of blues, and you can also catch a ton of channel catfish along those rocks. Another thing I want to tell you about, VINEYARDMAX. The website is vineyardmax.net. They make an awesome line of game feeders, fish feeders. They're just an awesome product, but they also have a deer attractant. That's what I really want to tell you about. It's called VINEYARDMAX. It's made from dried, hammer-milled grape hulls and wheat bran, I think it is, or ground-up wheat, and also some corn chops. So it's got stuff in it deer like. Plus, it's got that scent of grapes that we've used it. Larry and I have used it out in West Texas, where a deer have never seen a grape and had them come in on it. So check that out, and the website again is vineyardmax.net. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro, catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, let's head down to beautiful Lake Tawakoni. And for folks that are listening out of state and might not know about Tawakoni, it's the catfish capital of Texas, and in my opinion, the southwest. It's in about an hour east of Dallas. And our special guest now is Mr. David Hanson. David is a longtime friend. I fished with him many, many, many times. And he's the most veteran guide, to my knowledge, out on Tawakoni that guides for catfish. David, thank you, buddy, for answering some questions about blue catfish this morning.
My pleasure, Luke. You know, that's what we thrive on, fishing and hunting.
You dang right. We got a lot of folks listening to us that are of kindred spirits too. They
Yep.
That's why it's getting it's getting to be a good time of the year. What things are cooling down, and those, the blue catfish on Lake Tawakoni, the trophy blues. That's in the last 10 years or so. It seems like that's dominated a lot of the outdoor talk and articles you read and all that. And it is a prime lake for catching trophy blue catfish. And I'm gonna categorize a trophy blue, David, as any fish over, I'm gonna say over 20, from 20 to 80 pounds. It's a big any catfish over 20 pounds, in my opinion, it's a big catfish. But there at Tawakoni, fishing with people that know the patterns, like yourself, catching a 20-pounder or a 40-pounder even in the summer, but especially right about now on through the winter, it's not a I won't say it's not a big deal, but it happens pretty regularly, doesn't it?
Yes, sir. The last trip average, out of 20 fish, 5 of them were over 20 pounds.
Yeah, I mean,
your chances are extremely good. The amount of eater fish that you catch is, phenomenal.
Yep.
So everything that you could want, is there, and that one bite is all it takes.
That's
to be
it.
From an eater to the champion of the day.
That's exactly right. That one pull down on that. So rigging up for trophy. Say you've got some folks with you that it seems that people they will go for the trophy, and then they'll catch a big one, and then it seems to diminish the desire for a great big one. That's like a big buck. You got your monster buck or whatever. Then you're ready to have some action and some fun and some fillets. But say you get somebody in the boat that's a hardcore, die-hard, wants to catch the biggest catfish he ever caught. How will you rig up, David, as far as hooks? And I guess that would depend on where you're fishing, how deep, right?
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
If I'm drift fishing, I'm more than likely going to be running the Santee rig, which is most commonly used for drift fishing. I'm going to run from a 5 to a 7/0 hook. Rarely do I go any bigger on the hooks. I'm not a fan of 10 and 12/0 hooks. It makes no sense to me. When you can catch the same fish on a 5 or 6 or 7/0 hook, and you don't have that big piece of metal out there for them to look at.
Right, exactly.
But if I'm going to move up shallow, I'm going to use the same type of rig, but put a smaller cork on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, of course, replace the drifting weight with a slip weight and toss that sucker out there and let it do its work.
Exactly. So I fished with you enough, and I know I already knew the answer, but a lot of folks haven't had the pleasure of it. Another question, and this is something that I'm going to be doing some. There's a place at a prominent point out at Lake Tawakoni. It's called Wind Point. You know all about it. I'm going to be doing some bank fishing there. This point runs way out in the lake, and actually there's a long fishing pier at the end of the point there at Wind Point Park. So I'm planning on, there's riprap on the, the south side of that point, and actually around kind of the northeast side too, but I'm planning on doing some bank fishing. They catch some big, a lot of good-sized blue catfish and some big ones right there in the fall and winter especially. And, David, I believe the wind, years ago I did fish there some, but it's been a long time. But the wind, a south wind or I guess a north wind if you were fishing kind of the northeast side of that thing. That's going to be key to getting a good, steady bite, right? Do you think that's true? Yeah.
That's the absolute main thing that gets these fish into a feeding frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
If you are planning your trip and you look at the weather and it says north wind 10 to 15, yeah, it's going to be all right. But if you can get that south wind blow at least 2 days in a row at 10 to 15 miles an hour, when you walk down there to bait your hook, the fish are going to be throwing flags up out there. They're going to give up. They're going to,
yes.
It's just so much difference.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, so watch your weather. Not to say on a slack day, if you get out there, fish, maybe get out a little bit deeper. Maybe if we're talking Wind Point Park, maybe get out on the pier, fishing pier. Mm-hmm. You might can catch some. I don't know. You could probably catch channel cat on a day like that over some range cubes or something. I haven't done it yet, but I want to do some, get up early and get out there and do some fishing there off the bank. Now, say you're back to the blues, and I'm with you on the hook size. I don't want to be fishing with a 9/0 hook out there, but say a 5/0 or whatever. How will you rig up for bank fishing, David? You know,
I'm gonna make me a leader about 3 to 4.5, 5 feet long. The wind is the key here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With this leader, you're going to cast out there, and your weight's going to hold it at the bottom, and your leader's going to allow that cork's going to allow that leader to float up. The wave action is going to make it move around like it's swimming. And the blue cat, they love that. And get that thing up off the bottom, with that cork, and your action will be a lot better than fishing right on the bottom.
Yes, sir. Now, will your basic Santee rig, is that what we're talking?
Yes, yes. And all you're doing is replacing your drifting weight with a slip weight, so you can cast it out there. And the slip weights aren't expensive as the drifting weights, so, you go that way.
Yep.
And
by a slip weight, are you talking about like a big old egg sinker with a hole in it, that kind of weight?
Sinker or a no-roll sinker, something like that along that line.
Yep.
And you can use the old bell weights, let them slide on your line, just whatever you've got.
Right, yep.
But go ahead.
I'm sorry, David. And then cut bait, I know that, right?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I know people that are soaking chicken gizzards in grape Kool-Aid, chicken breasts, and they're catching fish on them. Myself, I've tried it, didn't have no luck with it, but they like what's fresh that you can get out of that lake the best.
Exactly. So perch or sunfish, let's call them. Last time I was with you, we caught a bunch on cut bait, cut pieces of sunfish. Yeah.
Anything that's not a game fish makes a good bait.
Yes, sir.
Carp, buffalo, drum, along that line. And you don't want to cut big, huge, massive pieces, especially when you're bank fishing, because you got to get some distance.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep.
When you make your cast. So, in my book, the further I can get that thing out there, even if I'm fishing from the boat, when I'm still fishing, anchor fishing, I don't throw it 20 feet from the boat.
You don't. That's a fact.
No, I try to get 50 yards, 30 to 50 yards from the boat. There's no noise out there. Those fish are out there circling like the predators that they are, and you catch more fish.
It makes a difference. I used to not wonder about that with the blues especially, But, well, David, I wish we had more time. I appreciate you giving us some tips. Folks, David Hanson at Lake Tawakoni, he's been guiding down there for over a quarter of a century and fishing there all of his life. How do they contact you, David, if they want to talk some catfishing or get in a boat with you?
Anybody can reach me anytime at 903-268-7391.
Okay, and folks, you can always, if you lose a number or something, through catfishradio.org, and a lot of you do from time to time, send me an email. my email address is there at catfishradio.org. And if you want to fish off the bank, David, if they want to get out there and catch some bank fish, they can go. Wind Point Park is a good spot. The website there is windpointparktx.com. David, we'll plan, if you can, get loose during the week sometime. Oh, and say I know deer season and elk season's kicking off. Maybe we can find a time to get out there this fall,
We'll do it, I promise.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at smokintex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weishuhn is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is leveled because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well, too, and a whole lot of other products, and folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. Folks, how about that little intro from Ernest Tubb there? This segment here is brought to us by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about hog hunting. If you listen to Catfish Radio, it's named Catfish Radio. It ought to be Hog Radio. I've got a friend that I've never actually met, but a friend, Joe Heidelmeyer. Now, Joe lives down in the hill country, down in Austin there, and he hunts. He's got a place that he hunts not too far from there. But the interesting thing about Mr. Heidelmeyer is he's the administrator of a very popular Facebook group. Now, it's called Texas Hog Hunters, and I think there's something like over 32,000 members. It's a private group. And let's visit with Joe and talk about hog hunting and all kind of fun stuff. Joe, thank you for enduring this lengthy intro, and thank you for being with me, buddy.
Well, I thank for the invite, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, so I've known you for probably, several years. We've never met. I guarantee you we would get along just fine. We'd have a big time if we got together in the outdoors, because what I first remember about you, Joe, is you was an administrator, admin, I guess it's called, on a big group, hog hunting group. And I was always, I don't spend a lot of time on these groups because I stay pretty busy with the media stuff I do. But I remember I said, this guy's got a great respect for wildlife. You were cautioning people back then, if you're going to post pictures, make sure they're clean. They don't have to be National Geographic cover shots, but make sure that they're clean. Now, we as hunters, I'm not worried about we as hunters seeing a picture that might be less than, stellar in appearance, but what does it do to people that are not hunters when they see some, for lack of a better term, gross pictures that people put on the internet? It's not a good deal, is it, Joe?
No, it's not, and there's some instances of that I can illustrate. I used to be a guide, and I would have people come to the ranch and talk about, oh gosh, I shot this animal and there was blood everywhere. And that's not the way you talk around people. You respect your animal. And they would, when they left, I would give everybody a little talk. You know, when you leave here, dress up nice, put your good clothes on. Don't stop at the 7-Eleven on the way home in your bloody pants and blood on boots and blood running out the back of your truck to show off to everybody what you have accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not good advertisement. People, you don't want to show it to the wrong people. The right people don't care, but it's the people that have children in their car and don't believe in blood sports and hunting that it's a bad example.
It is.
We just always talked about keep it clean and if you're going to take a picture of the deer you just shot and send it all over the place, stuff its tongue in its mouth or cut it off and wipe the blood off the poor creature.
Exactly.
And,
yep. Very true, Joe. All these things were drummed into me years ago as an outdoor writer, and I kind of got it before then. I understood. I wouldn't have done that kind of stuff, but the publications that I write for now or wrote for 38 years ago when I first started, they wouldn't accept that. I mean, they just wouldn't, and for a good reason. So as outdoor people, hunters or fishermen or just people that maybe want to get out with a camera and take pictures, whatever, we are ambassadors, whether we want to think of it as that or not, aren't we? We have to portray an image. Yep. That's
the perfect word is ambassador, and we have to be. We're the front people, and it doesn't take much anymore, especially for a rumor to start. And we want to be on the good side of the people that want to be outdoors people and women, but get turned off by the sight of blood and guts. You might as well say
gore, right? You bet. Joe, you and I share, I think we do, one thing in common. I know we do. I was raised on a small farm up in northeast Texas, up in Red River County. So my dad would raise 8 or 10 hogs a year. He would butcher 2 or 3. I'd help him when I was a kid, scald them and scrape them and all that, and the work part. And he would sell the rest. So at an early age, pork, wild hogs were something that was worthwhile. I mean, it definitely had a dollar value on it. So when the hogs population the boom started, and you remember as well as I do, 40 years ago or whatever, people would say, well, does that lease have hogs on it? And the truth of the matter is, I've said this a million times, 40, 50 years ago, people would stock hogs, wild hogs, trapped.
Exactly.
That's a main reason that we have hogs everywhere. I lived it. I was there, so I remember.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so we're not hiding that fact. And so we've got a hog problem, if you will. Now, I live in an area southeast of Dallas, about 30 miles between the East Fork of the Trinity and the Trinity River, and it is hog central. I've got some of the best hog hunting 1 mile from my house that I know, and I've hunted lots of places. So it's a problem for farmers and ranchers. But I still have to battle with this. A trailer full of 14 hogs stacked up. I know that's eradication, and I understand it. But it's still, I think, whoa, couldn't we not cut the hams and the back straps off? But I understand. I've always battled with that, Joe, because I know there is a value to hogs and the wild pork. One other thing, then I'm going to let you talk. I promise.
That's fine.
One thing
I'm following you.
Yeah, yes, sir. I know. But one thing that I've often thought about is been asked. Okay, Luke, I've written a book on hog hunting, and Larry Weissoon and I just finished another book, which I'm going to get you a copy of it, called Poor Man's Grizzly. But so people say, are those wild hogs good to eat? They know I like to cook wild pork. And that's a loaded question. And I answer it like this, Joe. I'll say, well, buddy or the lady, whatever, I say, here's the deal. If you were go to a livestock auction and buy a hog to eat, what hog would you buy? And that pretty much answers it. Do you think it does? I mean, they're not going to buy the oldest, rankest boar in the pen, are they? You know? Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, there's so many myths about hogs, and I'm in the same belief area that you are. I like to eat them, and I like to give them away.
Mm-hmm.
I have some neighbors that make tamales that would make you cry.
Oh boy.
And I do the same thing with, I'm going to say 90% of the hogs that I harvest, and I use harvest as my word of choice because that's a gentler word. But I call it the gutless method, and I can take a hog apart on the ground, hams and backstrap, before you can say don't do it. And I can't lift anymore, so I don't have to put them in the back of a truck, haul them to camp, hang them up, gut the things, and then haul everything back away somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's called the gutless method. And once you get used to that, there's no reason that you shouldn't take at least some of the meat from that hog and eat it or give it away. And people say, well, those big old stinky boars. Well, yes, there is such a thing as a big old stinky boar. But one of the best hogs I ever ate was a big old stinky boar. And it's mostly the outside of the boar that smells bad.
Exactly. That's very, very true. The back straps. I like the big back straps on a bigger hog, whether it's a sow or a boar. People kid me. I'm picky. I shot one. When was it? About last week, and here by the house at night with a big bore air gun that I use. It's just fun, and I'm hunting them over corn anyway. So the shot was about 40 yards, but I plan my meal before I go hunt the hog. That's kind of funny, really. But I wanted.
No, that's good. I like that.
Okay, I wanted a big pot of smoked wild pork chili. People say, "Oh, you can't make chili out of wild pork." Well, you can, So yeah. I smoked the pork, and I smoked it a couple hours. It was probably about 65-pound shoat, a young sow. And I took the hams on this one, the back straps, and the front shoulders, which is not a great deal of meat, but it made a big pot of smoked wild pork chili. So, yeah, they are really good, and it seems like the wild pork lends itself well to any kind of Mexican recipe, yes. Don't you think?
Yes, and carnitas especially.
Yeah,
there's a myriad of ways that you can utilize them. One of the best tricks I ever learned about pork was 40 some odd years ago when I first got into this sport.
Mm-hmm.
I hunted on a ranch in South Texas, and it was owned by the mother of a friend of mine. She was a widower, and her favorite thing to do every year for her and her church friends and her neighbors was she made sausage. She was a German lady also, and she would ask us for 100 pounds of meat if she wanted to make 200 pounds, and she wanted half and half deer and wild hog all boned out for her packages. And when we brought a hog into camp, when we hung it up, before she would let us put it in her freezer, she would cut a piece of it off with her old knife, and she preferred a fatty piece off the back or off the hindquarters, and she would fry it in a skillet right there.
Yep, I know.
And if it smelled good, she'd say, put it in the freezer, boys. And if it didn't smell good, she said, take it back out in the pasture.
Exactly.
Because she said, all it takes is one piece to spoil my sausage.
That's it. That's it. She was a smart lady, and she knew some things. Joe, I wish we had you and I could spend hours talking, and we'll when you have time, we'll get you back, and we'll talk some more. But I want to connect people with your Facebook group. I want you to do that. Tell them how to go in there. There's novices, there's very experienced hog hunters like you and I. I don't mind saying it because, my gosh, after a lifetime of hunting hogs, yeah, we do know a thing or two, you know. So, but there's
Absolutely.
and we can teach people. So, how do they find the group on Facebook?
Well, you just look at groups and enter Texas Hog Hunters. Now, there's several groups. There's Texas Hog Hunters Association. There's Texas Hog Hunters, and there's some other groups that have Texas Hog Hunters with some other little things tacked on. But this is Texas Hog Hunters, period.
Is that plural, Texas Hog Hunters, or Texas Hog Hunters, right?
Texas Hog Hunters.
Yes, plural.
Two words.
Yep.
And it's a private group, and it will say at the top, group by Lone Star Casita.
Yep.
And being at a private group, there's some questions that are asked, and if you don't answer the questions or agree to the rules, you get denied.
Right.
And a lot of people will answer the questions with a yes. Well, that's not an answer. We want an answer. And once you're in the group, every time you make a post, it has to be approved. You just can't get on and say, I want to know this, or can I do that? I read them first.
Right. Well, Joe,
screen it.
Yeah, I tell you, man, but that's what people need to do. That's how do they find you. Texas Hog Hunters. I'm told we are out of time. I'll get you back again before long, Joe, and we'll have some more fun talking about hogs and hog hunting. How about that?
We can sure do that, sir, anytime you need me.
Folks, this is Luke. For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers, too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, CVA.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use, you can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas, and VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, our next guest is Mr. Chris Avena. Now, Chris is the publisher of an awesome outdoor magazine online with some great stories, some great information in it. It's called American Outdoor News. So let's say hello to Chris and learn some more. If you're not reading this, I want to make sure you know how. Chris, thank you, buddy, for being with us.
Thanks for having me on, Luke. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. American Outdoor News. Now, I've written for you. Oh, I don't know.
Yes,
it's several years ago. I've got an article coming out, I think, in the October issue with you about hog hunting, you know. And so when did you start, or when did you first get the idea to do the online publishing?
Well, funny, Luke, it was actually an accident.
Yeah.
I was, my friend was looking to buy a magazine, and we were speaking to somebody about buying theirs, and their numbers were just a little out of line. And I told him, I said, I could start a magazine for a fraction of the cost. Why would I want to buy yours? It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
he said, go ahead. I said, hold my beer. And here we are rolling into our 7th year.
Seventh, right. That's been 7 years ago. Well, gosh, I still write for some print magazines, but I've noticed the amount of writing that I do for print compared to digital is equal right now, honestly, and it may be leaning a little bit more toward digital, honestly. So, Fur, Fish, and Game, I've written for that publication forever. I read it when I was a boy. That's one that's a print that stayed with us through the years. And but the fact that that once they get on the site, it's like turning the pages on a magazine. For our friends that haven't read online magazines, it's the same thing, except you're looking at your computer screen. Chris,
Well, the accessibility is a lot easier. You could read it on your phone, your tablet, your computer. You're traveling, you have access to it. And don't get me wrong, I love print publications, but we've seen some major publications, not just outdoor publications, but just major publications folding because of the cost involved of printing a magazine.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I love what I do. I love the industry. It's not without its pitfalls. I got to say, I didn't know much about magazine publishing when I started it. And, every mistake you could possibly make, I probably made it.
That's how you learn. I look at some articles I wrote. I penned my first outdoor newspaper column 40 years ago. Yeah, right at 40 years ago. And look, some of that. Yeah, maybe I've even picked up a tip or two through all the many years. But it is awful nice. In other words, right now, if someone wants to read your magazine, I guess, the October issue, we're into the first week of October now. They go online just to the website. Is that the easiest way to get there, Chris?
Yeah, you go to AmericanOutdoorNews.com.
Yep.
And you just, to register, you just put in your email.
Mm-hmm.
You can access the magazines from the website, or it will be emailed to you when it gets published. You'll also receive a weekly podcast from us through your email as well once you register. So you can listen to the podcast, you can access the magazine, everything from the website as well.
One spot shop there, if you will. Yeah. And of course, I know that we have the hog hunting feature, and you've got, the covers. Larry Weissoon, my good friend, folks listening right now heard Larry and I talking just a few minutes ago, but Larry was on one of the covers not so long ago, several issues back. But you'll interview different. Heck, I was even one of your guests here recently, for the podcast, right?
Yeah. We always try to have a cover that will grab your attention, and anybody in the outdoor industry has been on the cover. Jim Shockey, Larry Weissoon, Jana Walla, Melissa Bachman, and the list goes on and on. We've also had Bo Jackson, Ted Nugent, Joe Montana. And in this upcoming issue, we have future Hall of Famer from the Atlanta Braves, Ryan Klesko, will be on our October issue. And you know what? It was such a pleasure speaking to him, and he's such a avid outdoorsman. He has some great stories, and he's a very interesting guy. He's very into the outdoors in every way, shape, or form, whether it's fishing, turkey hunting, deer hunting. He's done it. He's out on an elk hunt right now as we speak.
That's good. Well, it's I've read. I usually each month when they come out, I read them front to, I would say cover to cover, but front to back. And it's good. You've got a lot of ladies that in the outdoors. They have a spot right there, usually covering something, and then the cooking section. I'm an old outdoor cook myself, Chris. I love to read the recipes. I probably need to share some of this, especially the wild pork cooking methods and stuff that I do with you sometime in the future, and I'll mark that down on the calendar to do so. But it's a great publication, and it's easy to access. You can do it on your cell phone or, like you say, PC at home or tablet, and wherever you can connect, you can read, right?
Oh, yeah. And, one of the things that I really like about the digital, we are able to incorporate direct links to our advertisers. We can incorporate pop-up video, so you can actually see a product in use. You can also you can watch our interviews. If you're driving, you don't want to read the interview because you're driving, you just hit the video and you can listen to it.
Click right on it. Well, Chris, you're always interviewing people and talking about others, but you have been a sportsman a long time. You've done some guiding, I know, at a ranch in Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I've guided there for several years. This year I am being a little bit selfish and just hunting myself.
Well, I understand that because for 7 years, a buddy and I outfitted elk, archery only, elk and elk and bear hunts is what I'm trying to say, up in north of Steamboat Springs, Colorado. We leased a ranch, a big ranch, and we had 3 weeks of archery hunting. Well, I did that for 7 years, and I got to the point, wait a minute, this is 2 or 3 weeks out of my life where I could be doing stuff because I have plenty of opportunities now as an old, outdoor rider forever. And so I did. But it was guiding those up in the mountains like that for those 7 years. I learned a lot, and it was a good time. But it was then. I'm having fun now hunting for Luke.
There's that misconception. Oh, you're a hunting guide. You get to hunt all the time. No, you really don't.
You better
be. Your hunting time is minimal.
I can tell you one thing: guiding elk hunters with archery in the mountains is one of the big challenges. I had a good trainer, Larry Large. He was raised in Idaho, and he forgot more about elk than most people would ever know. But he told me, he says, Luke, I want us to be partners in this thing, and he already had access to that big ranch up there. I said, okay, I'm no elk guide. He said, you're about to be, Luke. You've hunted elk. Yeah, I could write several articles on my early guiding deals, but like anything else, if you just back your ears and go at it, you can get it done. Chris, I really appreciate you spending some time with us, buddy. And we will remind everybody, AmericanOutdoorNews.com. Check it out. And in October here, check out the old Luke's hog hunting adventure. And I plan to get more for you. Try to get you one each issue. And they're monthly, aren't they?
No, it's bi-monthly.
Every 2 months. Okay, so December before Christmas will be the next one, right?
Yeah, that will be our holiday issue. There'll be a lot of gear reviews and product you can really check out for the holidays because as a sportsman, if you don't know what to get your husband or your wife or a sportsman or woman, hunting gear is always something to get.
Exactly. Well, Chris, thank you very much, buddy, for being with us.
Thanks again. I appreciate you taking the time.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you've had a good time, too. This segment was made possible by AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder, two awesome thermal scopes that I use for all my night hunting. check out AGM, all the products that they have there online, agmglobalvision.com. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.